Good evening. Доброго дня всім. All the best greetings. I'd like to congratulate everyone with the large holiday that is when all the holidays are done. So, how are you feeling after all those holidays? Greetings. We've managed to overcome all those holidays, and this is the first full day of work to talk about some businesses, some very important aspects in terms of the environment, climate, innovations, stable development, and how we can support the innovators. My name is Roman Zinchenko, and today I'm going to be some sort of a presenter at the collaboration of a wonderful organizations that are changing this world for the better. And we are launching the second wave of a new project that is the Climate Innovative Vouchers. That's the largest grant project in Eastern Europe, which supports those who are developing the sustainable solutions. That's the EBRD program, which is funded by the European Union. And I have an honor to represent a very small but an ambitious team which is administering this project. The incubator team today will talk about what's next. And we're going to be celebrating some victories today. So we've managed to survive the holidays. And I managed to lose 2 kilos of my weight out of 5 that I had accumulated, so to say, over the holidays. So we were moving forward in order to share some of the interesting thoughts that we had and which companies we've memorized from the point of climatic innovations and from the point of what have they done, what have they achieved in support of the world of green businesses. As well as in support of the new transformations. What have they shown over the past year? I'm sure you've monitored the success of the Ukrainian teams representing Ukraine at the CES, that is the Consumers Electronics Show in Las Vegas. That was a large exhibition in Las Vegas. And now, anyone watched that? Anyone watched Kutya? That's the national dish at Christmas in Ukraine. Somebody watched Home Alone. Somebody watched the exhibitions. But we are launching the season, the business season in Ukraine. So let's remember the successes of our Ukrainian companies that showed some of the best results at global arena. Delfast. Anyone who's not aware of Delfast, that's the Ukrainian producer or manufacturer of e-bikes. Okay, who knows about Delfast? Good. Everyone knows about Delfast. And someone tried those bikes already. Delfast has a world-breaking record, Guinness record. That's the largest comfort with one load of electricity. It was a star of many internet publications, and a lot of the internet publishers said that that's an incredible electric device. The TechCrunch, the Insider, the Forbes, many other publishers wrote about Delfast, and last week we had a conversation with Daniil, the founder. That was a very interesting conversation. He told me the largest portion of my work and the work of my company is to search for investments. And today we'll be talking about the investments, how to attract more of them. And Delfast was a really success. They got over 3.5 million investments through crowdfunding. That was last year in February, and we are proud of this company because in the heart of this electric bike, there is an important decision that was funded by the Innovation Vouchers. At the heart of these bikes, these are the money that were funded by the EBRD, by the EU, as part of the Climate Innovation Vouchers project. And the company that was selling just a couple of bikes per month, now they're already selling more than 2 million bikes for the same period of time. We also have a lot of champion solar gaps. They're starting to implement a new project, and Zhenya told me somewhere in Spain, hopefully they will get a portion of the market after the COVID, and they will start working more actively. They will start producing more active. That's another very important topic, how to democratize the renewable energy. At the heart of the solar gaps, there is the electricity, the patent protection. That's something that was funded through the climate voucher. So let's give them a round of applause for their consistency. And if you've seen our green expedition by Ukraine and the incubator, I recommend you really to look at the history of the company that is the company Hempar, the winner of the first wave of the climatic innovation vouchers, and it was awarded back in September 2018, and it constructs its technologies in Ukraine, and Switzerland, and the United States, and other companies. And Sergei Kovalenko is going to be with us. He'll be telling about his success, because the best motivation for the new champions is to listen on the successes of the previous champions. So Sergei is still en route, still driving to us. Hopefully we will hear him. And we are sorry for a small delay, because in any case, I'm sure that we'll have a fruitful conversation. Another champion company, Prana, the electronic of smart recuperators, it already has like a third part of the import was made possible due to the EU funding, and now it exports its products to over 40 companies, 40 countries of the world. Roman, Dmitro, hopefully you can hear us. And the same, we have a conversation about DTech, about the material science. We have a 3D printing device with titanium. We are offering our sustainable solutions for aircraft construction. That's the Prana company, and they're printing the different materials for aircraft construction. That is also something that was supported through the vouchers project. Radwife, thank you. Now, just a few words about the role, how to move forward with the innovations. What is the role of the trees? Well, you have to climb on them. That's a unique historic photo, a team of young green startup, which is called Go to You, in order to make a page into the epoch when we haven't heard about any internet or something like that. They climb on the tree in order to find an internet. But then at the incubator Kessler camp in 2017, after visiting that camp in just a half a year, we were the winners of the Climate Launchpad. They were among the top 10 best teams out of 60 countries of the world. Now, they submitted their applications for the climatic vouchers. So 2 times they failed, but on the third time, on the third of the application, they won. They were granted with this voucher, and that was a great news for us. And now we have an ABB which is investing in Go to You. We don't know the amount, and I'm sure we would have an NDA even if we knew that sum. But still, the ABB is investing in a Ukrainian company that was born a couple of years ago. And it's a breakthrough for everyone. Let's go forward. That's the decoration ceremony in August last year, and it showed a few of new champions, a Ukrainian team, the Good Plastic company. That's an alternative to bad plastic. And they're producing interior solutions using refurbished plastic. And some of the designers are standing in line waiting for the products to arrive. The Good Plastic company has received a statute of the Innovative Vouchers in September last year. In a couple of weeks, me together with my colleague, we were driving from their office, and we were driving together with William Czechowski, since the office of Incubator and the cooperative of Igor Fedorov was close by, so we've shared a taxi, and William asked to, to drop him by the cooperative because he had a meeting with Fedoriv. And after a couple of months, we've heard the news that a good plastic company is attracting the investments from Andrei Fedorov and the founder of the new post mail, that is Nova Poshta. And that's the part of the history of the champions. And we are so proud of those champions because their technologies were developed through the funds that were attracted through the climate vouchers. Those were the components funded by the EBRD and the European Union all together in the frames of developing of a new pulse for a green economy. Now, at this aspect, I'd like for you to welcome all those innovators who are moving forward with this innovative area. And now I'd like to pass the floor to Chloe Alliot, and she's representing the EU Representation Office. So, Chloe, please, the floor is yours. Так, працює. Thank you. Я дуже рада доєднатися до вас сьогодні. Рада побачити стількох вас одразу. Дійсно, я дуже рада побачити стільки бізнесменів, які готові до, власне, проведення різноманітних заходів на користь навколишнього середовища в Україні. Я хотіла б подякувати за ваш інтерес до цієї програми. Я також хотіла подякувати не тільки тим, хто доєднався до нас сьогодні у цьому приміщенні, а також тим, хто отримав якусь користь від цієї програми. Ми знаємо чимало таких компаній, і я хотіла б сказати, що власне, це дуже добрий приклад для Європейського Союзу, що чимало компаній долучаються до реалізації цієї програми. Для нас інновації у сфері клімату і ці ваучери – це частина величезної програми по фінансуванню технологій, це частина такої практичної роботи. А крім того, це програма, в яку ми віримо. Це демонстрація того, що ми хочемо просувати, що ми хочемо підтримувати в Україні. І, власне, дуже добре, що бізнесмени в Україні хочуть рухатися цим напрямком, що вони можуть створювати бізнес в цих напрямках. І ми дуже раді, що ми співпрацюємо з Європейським банком реконструкції та розвитку в цій програмі. І ми дійсно робимо важливу справу для зелених технологій, для власне українського бізнесу, оскільки це дозволить вам створювати нові рішення для того, щоб створювати інноваційні технології, енергоефективні технології. Ми знаємо, що ці рішення безумовно продемонструють, що можна перейти на зелену економіку. Можна досягти отих цілей, які було поставлено щодо скорочення викидів вуглецевого газу. Це можливо у світі, це можливо в Україні. І це такі унікальні бізнес-можливості. Вони можуть принести прибутки. І я хочу підкреслити, що вони можуть створити нові роботи в Україні, нові роботи по світу. І, безумовно, вони заслуговують на наші зусилля. Безумовно, разом ми можемо зменшити викиди вуглецю. І, як ви знаєте, з боку Європейського Союзу один з наших основних пріоритетів – це якраз зелений договір, зелений договір. І для України що це означає? Це означає таку дуже потужну адженду, дуже потужну стратегію, яка охоплює всі сектори економіки. І ми маємо зобов'язання щодо досягти нейтралітету з точки зору викидів вуглецю протягом певного періоду часу. Цього діалог вже запущено на найвищому рівні з різними країнами. Зараз активно співпрацюємо з представниками урядів різних країн. І ми зараз якраз думаємо про те, як же долучити підприємців до цього перехідного процесу, оскільки це дуже важливий елемент, який варто обговорювати, і Україна також зобов'язалася розробити власний шлях по скороченню викидів вуглецю. Ми безумовно підтримуємо цей шлях з боку Європейського Союзу, і ми дуже раді з того, як власне цей трансформаційний процес наразі реалізується, оскільки він сприятиме екоінноваціям, він сприятиме підприємницькій діяльності в Україні. Це такий дуже важливий аспект на шляху до процесу трансформацій на підтримку екології. Ми створюємо нові технології, нові матеріали, нові підприємства. І, власне, це сприятиме також скороченню викидів СО2, безумовно. Ми знаємо, що це не дешеві технології, що вони потребують якихось інвестицій на першому етапі. Втім, вони турбуються, вони піклуються про нашу планету. Саме тому ми думаємо, що такі проекти необхідно просувати, і саме тому ми і підтримуємо такі проекти за рахунок нашої програми спільно з Європейським банком реконструкції та розвитку, спільно з інкубатором. І дуже сподіваємося, що ви зможете створити такі інновації в Україні, і що ваші підприємницькі компанії зможуть іти цим успішним, безумовно, шляхом. Що ж, залишається побажати вам успіху. Всього найкращого. Дякую. Дякую, пані Хлоя. І дякую делегації ЄС, команді ЄС. What they are doing, what the Ukraine delegation of the EU is doing, what the EU is doing from the point of creating the green market. That's incredible. So let's give a round of applause to Chloe. And now I have in order to pass the floor to another motivator of e-transformations, green transformations from Egypt to Moldova, from Tajikistan to Ukraine. That's a person who's in Kiev at the heart of the climate innovations of the EBRD. It creates the green projects. So please welcome Alexander Nikolaenko. Now, he's the one that motivates the development of the vouchers, the leading manager and representative of the EBRD here today with us. Thank you, Roman. I would like to be less positive today because we have a climate crisis. And despite the fact that Ukraine has developed its own NDC, it showed its own Green Deal with the EU, we all understand that we need investments for the implementation of the projects and for reaching the goal of becoming carbon neutral in the nearest future. And the problem is all about the fact that according to the researches by the European agency, 30% of the technologies that we need in order to ensure the carbon neutrality, now 30% of those technologies are not commercially available on the market. And even more, we do need a lot of investments. And the Ministry of Environment had recently published a report on its website on the need for investments up to 2030. And for Ukraine, this is something around 100 billion euros. And only these investment would allow us to fulfill the commitments under the Paris Accords. So that's a challenging situation. And from the point of the EBRD, the first thing we're doing, we're investing in the green economy. Last year, EBRD has become, more than 50% of a green bank, because a lot of our investments were attracted to the green economy in energy efficiency, in renewables, in adaptation to climate changes, in improving our practice on how to manage the wastes, as well as in managing our biodiversity. And you can see fintech written on that. What is this fintech? That's the Center for the Transfer of Technologies in the sphere of climate change. As we can see, the transfer of technologies and those development of new technologies, it reduces the cost of the implementation of those technologies locally. Those 100 billions of investments as the result of our work, they should be reduced. And that is why the bank is happily supporting new innovators, and we are grateful to our partners from the EU that are supporting this program with the funding, and we have an opportunity to support climate innovators with vouchers. We are able to support new green products. We're ready to fund. We're ready to provide the financial support to the companies. If you have a project, a climate project that you would like to work with, we have a separate program of providing technological assistance, and we would be capable of working with you. We would be able to run the audit, the green audit. We'll be able to come up with the pre-feasibility study in order to be able to reduce the impact of the Ukrainian economy on the environment. Thank you, to your team. Without your assistance, there would be no process like that. And I'd like to remind that as of now, the program of climate innovations is working not only in Ukraine. It started with Ukraine, but it works also in Serbia and Belarus. We are currently considering the possibility of starting this program in Georgia, in Romania, Bulgaria, as well as the Baltic countries. And that is why already something like 50 innovators were supported by the EBRD in different countries. We are waiting for new innovators to come up. You're all invited to supply your applications to the team of incubators. Thank you. There is another team, a team of our partners, the CVD Consortium, that you need to express gratitude or support as well, and they were implementing that project in Belarus as well. So in Ukraine, in Belarus, we've supported over 30 developers of the green technologies. So let's take a look at some of our champions from the previous stage. So please, let's us demonstrate a small video.
Ще ніколи світ не був таким швидким, зручним та автоматизованим, як зараз. Нові технології змінюють та спрощують наше життя та спосіб взаємодії з навколишнім світом. Ми користуємось здобутками прогресу щодня в найрізноманітніших сферах, стаємо все більш залежними від нього і навіть не усвідомлюємо, наскільки крихким є наш комфорт та добробут. Тим часом наші міста, домівки, поля, дороги і ліси, водні горизонти та рахунки за електроенергію все більше відчувають кліматичні виклики на собі. Зміни клімату наблизилися тієї критичної межі, за якою катастрофічні наслідки. І щоб уникнути цієї катастрофи, сьогодні світ потребує потужної хвилі нових технологій та бізнесів, дружніх до клімату, які мають нейтральний вуглецевий слід або навіть забирають вуглекислий газ з атмосфери. Вони потрібні для того, щоб кожен ваш новий девайс, авто, горнятка кави або кіловат електроенергії не викликали руйнівних змін довкілля. Щоб дати додатковий імпульс розвитку таких зелених технологій та створити платформу для розвитку та впровадження екоінновацій, Європейський банк реконструкції і розвитку за фінансування Європейського Союзу запустили проект «Кліматичні інноваційні ваучери». Грінкубатор, організація-координатор української клінтек-екосистеми, впроваджує цей проект, починаючи з 2017 року. Кліматичні інноваційні ваучери віднайшли багато талановитих підприємців та інноваторів, що створюють вражаючі рішення для кліматичної економіки як України, так і всього світу. Вони створюють електробайки з найбільшим в світі пробігом на одному заряді та друкують деталі для літаків титановим дротом. Вони забезпечують свіже та безпечне повітря у вашому домі та захищають вашу їжу від токсинів. Розробка ключових компонентів, що лежать у серці багатьох з цих інноваційних зелених технологій, стала можливою завдяки допомозі та фінансовій підтримці проекту кліматичних інноваційних ваучерів. Учасники мали змогу використовувати грантові кошти на послуги промислового дизайну, тестування та сертифікацію свого продукту, національну чи міжнародну сертифікацію, розробку електронних компонентів, захист інтелектуальної власності та багато інших послуг, важливих для успіху їхніх зелених бізнесів. Візьмемо, наприклад, Delfast, українського розробника електробайків, що мають рекорд Гіннеса за найдовшу поїздку на одному заряді акумулятора. Завдяки кліматичному ваучеру електробайки Delfast отримали нове серце, яке зараз б'ється у всіх їх нових моделях, бортовий комп'ютер та контролер батареї. Компанія також вдосконалила дизайн рами, захистила патентами свою інтелектуальну власність та отримала право видавати ВІН-номери – заводські ідентифікатори транспортних засобів, обов'язкові для поїздок автобанами та магістралями. Нещодавно Delfast підписав контракт з мексиканською поліцією, розпочав продаж вантажних байків та випустив оновлену модель свого продукту – Delfast Top 3.0. У лютому 2021 року компанія успішно залучила $3 мільйони інвестицій на будівництво свого заводу в Україні і розвиток виробництва. Українська компанія BioSense розробила мобільну лабораторію, яка дозволяє швидко та точно виявляти токсичні сполуки мікотоксини в зернових культурах прямо в полі, без потреби відправляти зразки на дорогий аналіз у лабораторії та чекати кілька днів на результати. Завдяки гранту від ЄБРР в рамках кліматичних інноваційних ваучерів BioSense залучив провідну компанію у сфері промислового дизайну для створення інженерних прототипів для запуску у виробництво. Також завдяки ваучеру команда BioSense розробила новий мобільний додаток та розробила повну технічну документацію для дрібносерійного виробництва.
Переключилися на грантове фінансування, ми почали подаватися в різні грантові програми, одна з якої якраз були кліматичні ваучери від ЄБРР. І ці програми дозволили нам реалізувати перші прототипи.
Тока – одна з провідних мереж зарядних станцій для електромобілів України. Крім безпосереднього надання послуг зарядки, також розробляє власні зарядні станції. Завдяки підтримці кліматичних інноваційних ваучерів Тока вдосконалила свою мережу зарядних станцій та програмне забезпечення для управління нею, щоб запропонувати безперешкодний доступ до зарядки клієнтам інших європейських мереж, на кшталт послуги роумінгу в мобільних мережах. Компанія також залучила провідну українську студію промислового дизайну для проєктування нової моделі своїх зарядних станцій. Компанія Ngo Can розвиває міжнародну платформу, яка мотивує власників об'єктів сфери послуг, таких як готелів, ресторанів, кінотеатрів, встановлювати зарядні станції для електромобілів та приводить до них клієнтів-електромобілістів. Завдяки підтримці кліматичних інноваційних ваучерів Ngo Can вдосконалили мобільний додаток для своїх користувачів, створили електронний кабінет для власників зарядних станцій. В Україні платформа наразі охоплює 80 локацій, і до неї активно додаються швидкі зарядки компаній-партнерів. Нещодавно компанія Ngo Can підписала угоду з великою роумінговою платформою HubJack, що дозволить її клієнтам отримати доступ до 250 тисяч зарядних станцій у 43 країнах. Компанія «Червона хвиля» розробила технологію 3D-друку титановим дротом деталей, призначених для роботи в умовах високих навантажень та екстремальних температур, зокрема в аерокосмічній галузі. Технологія, яка називається X-Beam 3D Metal Printing, суттєво дешевша, безпечніша і швидша за 3D-друк титановим порошком. І порівняно з традиційним виготовленням титанових частин фрезеруванням, скорочує відходи дорогого і міцного металу в 6-10 разів. Завдяки кліматичним інноваційним ваучерам «Червона хвиля» отримала програмне забезпечення для автоматизації друку та інтеграції свого 3D-принтера з провідними програмами для комп'ютерного проєктування – CAD-системами. Також «Червона хвиля» створила одну з найбільших вакуумних камер для 3D-друку в Європі. Українська компанія Integro SD виробляє органічні добрива з курячого посліду на біогазовій установці власної конструкції та допомагає підвищувати урожаї органічним фермерам. Ваучер допоміг компанії отримати міжнародні сертифікати якості, вийти на міжнародний ринок і зробити перші поставки своїх добрив на Кіпр.
В минулому році ми отримали грант, і на ці кошти ми змогли проапгрейдити наше виробництво і зробити його більш сучасним і автоматизованим. Сьогодні ми можемо керувати нашим заводом дистанційно, з Києва, управляючи усіма процесами.
Компанія Прана створює енергоефективні системи вентиляції, рекуператори. Продукція компанії забезпечує свіже повітря в приміщеннях, рятує від конденсату та грибків і проста у встановленні. Кліматичний інноваційний ваучер допоміг компанії створити смарт-контролер. Він дозволяє автоматично встановлювати режими роботи рекуператора залежно від якості повітря, присутності людей та інших факторів, а також підвищити коефіцієнт корисної дії свого продукту. Прана експортує свою продукцію до 38 країн, і близько мільйона людей у світі користуються рекуператорами української компанії. Незважаючи на пандемію COVID-19, у 2020 році компанія змогла наростити свої продажі майже на 25%. Грінкубатор надихається інноваторами, постійно шукає нові зелені таланти та прагне вивести сектор зелених інновацій на новий рівень. У першому етапі проєкту кліматичних інноваційних ваучерів команда Грінкубатор провела понад 700 індивідуальних консультацій для заявників. Отримала заявки 216 аплікантів, з яких експерти проєкту відібрали 31 компанію. 26 компаній отримали фінансування та успішно реалізували свої проекти. Грантове фінансування склало майже 1 мільйон євро. У 2021 році проект кліматичних інноваційних ваучерів розпочинає свій другий етап. Проект розширюється і тепер дає можливість отримати фінансування компаніям-учасницям не тільки з України, але також із Білорусі. Приєднуйтесь до нової хвилі кліматичних інноваторів.
So join the climate innovators. Now that was a part of the history of those climate innovators. They're creating a new industry. So let's express them our words of thanks. Let's express the words of thanks to EBRD and the European Union that are developing the green economy. So we wanted to raise this question, how to make it possible for the climate funding to be more available, so to say. There would be larger climate funding because we have the projects that are moving this sector forward. We have ETAC, we have Green Deal, we have EU. This is part of this project, but how can we provide more capital? How can we create more companies? How can we find more green champions? And I'd like to invite a number of participants of our panel discussion. I'd like to invite some of our experts, those who create this new sector. Vyacheslav Pidlisny, the partner of the Network Investments. Please, read Slava. Vlad Teslenko, a partner at the investment fund SMRK, one of the investors of our champion. And Slava's team has attracted the funding for many projects, for Kabamina, for others. Now Roman Kravchenko, the founder of the hub, the Climate Innovative Vouchers, supported 3 of our champions, produced by the Roman's Venture Studio. And 2 of those companies you've seen in our small video. I have a pleasure to welcome Alexandra Balkova. So she's now a head of portfolio at Startup Wise Guys in between of Kiev and Tallinn. So Alexandra has created a sustainability program in one of the best Baltic accelerators. So greetings to you. And congratulations to you as well. Now the godfather of the climate innovation vouchers, a person who was a banker, a public official, and then another banker, a co-founder of the Green Investment Bank and one of the directors of the BRD, Serhiy Maslichenko, and our engine of the project, the leading expert in green economy, Alexander Nikolaenko. So please, I remember that Alexander once told me there's a limited time available to all of us. So I have a first question that will go directly to you and then to the rest of our guests today. So, can you tell me, do we have enough green capital in the world? And how can we increase that capital? Where do we get the money from? I know it's a difficult question. I know it's not about the optimism, but we are talking about new opportunities, really. Where can we take the money from in order to create a new green industry? Oh, please. I will start because I think I'm the youngest of the panelists working on this topic, as I've started learning this area from the beginning of the COVID, and that is in 2020. As a company, we started thinking about this direction, I think 2 or 3 years ago, but back in 2020, because of certain situation, we started to move in that area, in that direction. And a brief answer to this question, where do we take the money from? There are many investors, and I represent venture fund, that is the private investors. And there are many investors around the world that are starting to look at this direction. So the first question, or the first, I would say, step is to clearly monitor any initiatives. Earlier, the first step that you would need to take was to apply for grants, because not too many investors felt they could return their investments from the sustainable projects or green projects. But now the situation is a bit different. There is enough financial data that prove that it's possible to earn more money on green projects than on non-green projects. And that is why I'm a sort of a fresh fund representative that is moving in that direction. My first point that I would like to raise, you would need to monitor those funds that are being created or recreated. There are many new funds that are being established, and their sole purpose is to invest in the green projects. This is their major goal, purpose, and objective, so to say. And despite that we are amidst the climate crisis, I think I'm one of the optimists, and I believe that this will help many of our new coming projects to create this new future. That's a diverse sort of point of view. Alexander representing the fund that is investing the funds. We have the development of institutions, and you as the representative of the development bank, what can you tell us? You are the leader from the point of investments. In addition to EBRD, where else can you find the money from? Well, looking at the results of the UN FCC conference, one of the decisions that was made was to invest more in green energy, in green economy, in any activities designed to adapt to climate changes. And the development banks, and EBRD is one of them that I represent, they committed to support those green investment projects. That's first. And second is to comply with the Paris Accord provisions in their own work. So the goals of the bank would be to have 100% of our investments to be in compliance with the Paris Accords provisions. That is not to have an annual average increase of temperature more than 1.6 degrees. That is why the international development banks, the financial institutions, they have a large appetite for investments in green economy. And looking at the market of green bonds, I think almost every bond that is coming to the market receives oversubscription, like 3 or 4 times. So the investors are ready to give more money, 3 or 4 times more money than the company is willing to receive. So the investments are there, but you have to understand that there are new requirements being established, requirements on the part of investors to those willing to receive the investments. The funds, the financial institutions, they start to assess the physical climate risks that could be there as part of the implementation of the project, or those related to climate change. Secondly, the risks of transformations within their own investments, whether there is an increase in the cost of 1 ton of CO2 for the acting company or not. So there are money, but in order to receive those money, you would need to work, that's for sure. But they are available. Thank you for a more optimistic overview this time. Can you stay with us once more, or just a few more minutes? So let's give a thank to Alexander. He has to leave right now. Thank you. I'd like to invite you to apply to a new wave of climate innovation vouchers project. So thank you, and I come closer to the rest of our panelists. So Sergey, you being on this market for so many years, and you were one of those pioneers on the market. And the font you represent in this panel is the youngest, so to say. It's freshly baked font. So you have the expertise and innovations. What can you say about the sources of funding? It's a great pleasure for me to join you. You've gathered us all at certain period of time in the past. Sergey is the person who created those vouchers 4.5 years ago. We've discussed this idea, I think 6 years ago. It was a very interesting idea, since Incubator was dealing with a lot of startups and projects in the climate area. So the EBRD wanted to join us, and we were the authors who came up with this idea of joining the incubator with the EBRD funding. And together with all the other partners, we've managed to implement this project. And now we can see that this program continues. We've seen some success stories, and it's a very important case. And Sasha left us so we can have a more frank discussion on EBRD. EBRD is a very sophisticated organization from the standpoint of response to new ideas, new startups, and new funds. So they're specializing in that. That's why those vouchers project is something that is absolutely crucial, because of the ecosystem created by the incubator. What should we do next? That was the question raised 3 or 4 years ago. We've discussed that with EBRD, with donors, with other partners in Kiev. We supported these initial projects, but what should we do next? We need to create a venture fund. But who do we work with? We need partners, primarily in Ukraine. Mostly people here would work in IT industry, and climate was not on the priority for them. It was not considered a topical agenda of like 2 or 3 years ago. So the bank had a step-by-step approach. Let's come up with something. Ecosystem is really interesting, and then we'll see whether there are sufficient projects to work with. Okay, we've supported 30 projects. We've seen that we would need to understand how many funding do we need to secure in order to invest them, like 5 million euros, maybe more. That's not a significant amount of money. That's why we had a suggestion to come up with the regional funds in Warsaw or in Baltic countries. But that's still not mature enough. We still need to think of that. I'd like to say about 3 major aspects, particularly the trends. The climate has become in the mainstream. Earlier, it was not on the agenda. Now, it's been compared with the IT industry, with the tech industry. We can see more funds. And I had a statistics for 2021, and there were 27 unicorns were established in climate tech, and the number of funds established in 2021 equals to the number that was established over 5 years. So this is something that is happening in agriculture, in materials, in other industries, in terms of mobility as well. This is the most active. Then there was a change in the markets. Renewable storage. 5 years ago, nobody trusted in them. They were not economically efficient. And now they're becoming cheaper, more attractable, and approachable. And that is why a lot of platforms, data clouds, or solutions are being established together with them. And those people who are not trusting in climate change, they cannot trust, or they should definitely trust in the market of renewables. They're becoming more affordable in Ukraine, particularly with the Ukrainian today's market. So the change of the market, it motivates the development of technologies. Unfortunately, the Ukrainian market is not that big enough, because despite the IT, where Ukraine is a part of the global market, and there's more of a software than a hardware. In terms of climate tech, it's more of a practical solutions and more of the hardware. And that takes time, and they're based on the neighbor market that is together with the agricultural business. And thankfully, we have a lot of startups in the agricultural business we've already mentioned about. And talking about our fund, just a few words. We are creating a more traditional fund nowadays that would look at the infrastructure projects in green energy, in logistics, in transport, in digital infrastructure. So we are looking at more traditional sectors, but still we're also watching actively at climate tech, at startups. We're thinking of creating a future fund. But we're taking a step-by-step approach. There is a system that is already a solid one. A lot of work has already been done, and hopefully in 2 or 3 years, we'll have a lot of active, dedicated funds in Ukraine. Now we have funds that are monitoring this sector, but we don't have large local players. What's your target in terms of the capital? How much do you allocate for risks? We're talking about the infrastructure funds, so the target is fairly significant, something like 5 to 20 million euro. That's the target that we are planning. I mean, from my standpoint, why it's important to have those players, because the infrastructural level, it creates the innovation spillover effect. So the innovations in infrastructure, they will produce a demand for local players. They are creating green innovations for the green projects. Now more to say from the venture part. You have the microphone. We have 3 gentlemen to the right of our panel. Now these are the people who supported the teams at the very earliest stages. Slava, raised the capital for Delphist, and he was among the first investors. Vlad is managing the SMRK portfolio for Carbominer. That's one of our champion. And Roman has 3 teams. Yoursense, Sorgaps, and who's the third one? And Sirocco. So they have received the climate innovation vouchers. So to what extent are you satisfied with the performance of your green portfolio? How those companies, well, demonstrate themselves? Can the investor earn in that area? Are you considering further extension of your portfolio? Well, from our standpoint, when we were analyzing Delphist, when we were taking decision on the investments, there was not a consideration that this is a green project. At the earliest stage, that was an investment in the team, in their idea, because we thought we've seen that there is an idea. At first, they were thinking about the delivery using the e-bikes, and that it was turned into a manufacturing of a new e-bike. So at the early stages, I wouldn't say that we had a lot of green investments, as that was not a focus for earlier investments or the private investors that we are working with, as they could be attracted at later stages. But there's 2 cases, the Delphist and the other one I will try to remember. Now, both of those cases, they demonstrate a great performance. Delphist, from the moment of our first investment, has made a tremendous progress. The other company, which is developing the accumulator batteries and hydrogen, and they produced also tremendous progress. We earned we returned some of our investments in Delphist, but still they're on their way to IPO or M&A. But still, those cases that I remember, they were very interesting from the point of investments. And from what I can see on the market, and looking globally, there are a lot of e-funds and in other countries, and they're monitoring those projects and looking at the statistics. The direct investment funds and the venture funds have tripled their investments last year. That's the trend that exists right now, and it will develop for sure. So I think that was my brief answer to this question. I didn't know you started some projects in the hydrogen area. I joined SMRK a year and a half ago, and SMRK has an average received of around $500,000. We are a generalist fund. Our major motto, so to say, is to stimulate the Ukrainian economy by funding the non-toxic startups in Ukraine. And this is how we've designed our impact strategy. We prioritize the impact projects. We have 2 projects, that is Carbominer and Aspar Bionics. So far, well, I wouldn't be telling about the return of our investments, and as you would need more time in order to return your investments in these projects. But from the long-term perspective, I would say there will be a greater return from those investments. I'm a new partner. I'm looking at the impact. So thank you for inviting me to this panel. So if you got a project that received grants, we can send it to you, understanding that they can possibly receive something around $500,000 for further development of this business. That's great news. Roman, you also have a very important work. You have an expertise of combining entrepreneurship and investment activity. What about your graduates, champions? What do they feel in terms of the return of the investments? and what's your feeling as the developer of startups, as well as the investor of startups, in confirmation of these words that it will take you a long time to refund your investments, to restore your investments. And I'd like to say that out of 3 projects that received the funded, the Sirocco, the Bosons, and another one, I can say that the product that could be bought right now, this is Solar Gaps. Sirocco, they are receiving another funding through crowdfunding. As an investor, I can tell you that we don't have exits, but they've multiplied by 14 times the $50,000 that were initially. Now there are crowdfunding. Solar Gaps is trying to acquire another $500,000, and Sirocco is trying to acquire additionally $800,000. I'm not talking about any previous grants, but in support to those words about how do you interact the interact investments in the early stages. Well, a lot mentioned funds and organizations, but look at the people around you. There may be an angels around you, so to say, willing to invest. That's a long path, and it's more about funding rather than investing. So you are looking for a partner, in fact. And then, whenever you've built this trust, you can attract other investments. And I underestimated this approach in the beginning because startups usually produce products in the vacuum for themselves. They're creating products for themselves, I would say. That's a very good way to validate, to take the money from a direct customer. Talking about the money, I represent angels, so to say. These are small investments. But in our community, there are different hubs with different people, with different views on how to invest the projects. Somebody provides loans, somebody provides assets. There are many tools of funding and investing. So you need to look around. There could be other opportunities in addition to investment, because sometimes people tend to underestimate those. And by raising the level of trust, by creating the content, you'll be able to start your journey in the West, into the USA, start equity crowdfunding. That's a new tool I'd like to recommend you to. So you can take this direction, and I've given you just a small mechanism how to proceed. If you don't have the money, now you get investments in from $10,000 to $50,000, and then there could be clients, there could be new horizons and new assessment, a new possibility for investments. So this is briefly an information what is going on. And this is how the graduates of Green Incubator operated. I don't remember your words, and you told that our founders invest their own money. And does your team, you represent the Baltic Fund. How do you see this trend? You already have this portfolio, and I don't know what your axes are, what your seats are, but what sort of a dynamic can you see? Well, in the beginning, I'd say that we need to strive for globality. Well, it's not global. It was born in Estonia, but still, we have a lot of different funds right now in different countries. We have in Copenhagen in Denmark, we have a fund in Italy, we have a fund in Africa that is far away from the Baltic countries. And I'd like to compliment on the words of my colleagues that it will take you a lot of time to return your investments. And statistically, it's true, particularly in case of the infrastructure projects that has more of a hardware that require more resources and more time. That's absolutely correct. But still, considering the trends, in terms of the funding, as it is increasing, there are more opportunities. On the other hand, not every person, not every country, but still many countries, they are committed to look in this direction because there is a pressure from the international organizations, and those pressure has been exerted on corporations, on contractors, on many other parties. And these international trend, international direction towards the search for sustainable impact components, it commits all members of the community to invest in this area more. And that is why, looking at the Ukrainian startup, one of them, they don't have global achievements, but they're still developing their products. They've introduced an access, the new product they've been developing after the toothbrush. Then some of the non-Ukrainian projects, I could come up with another example. Well, the other one is the Estonian startup. We supported them from the very first beginning. They only had an idea, a concept, a team, but nothing else. So they were, developing the product when they've joined our sort of project. Because usually we try to support those teams that already have a developed product. But those people, in 4 months, they've managed to earn something around $100,000 in 4 months. So there are doing the refurbishing of and recycling of different devices. So it's some sort of B2B, B2C options. I mean, they help the clients to change their devices into more modern one by recycling and refurbishment the old one. Then another very interesting project was a startup, Planet for Two. It's also from Estonia, but they're working for South Africa. And right now they're developing themselves in Mexico. And just a couple of months ago, they've received over 30 million in Mexico. So they've increased their revenues by a number of times. They have more than 1 million of MNR. So it's all about the investment in the teams. There are many projects that have already reached the deadline and they died. Yeah, sometimes you have to close the projects. That's natural. And going back to your original question, the founders do invest their money, but now I think the new founders of the green projects, they have more opportunities if compared to those opportunities that existed 2 or 3 years ago. Now they can validate their product with the funds of the international organizations or bank investors or venture investors, and it was not available to those innovators a couple of years ago. So Sergey, in our panel, we have representatives of the teams working with different receipts. And in the morning, when I published this post on 26 green unicorns, and thank you very much for this post, it gave me a lot of ideas in this context. I have a question. Since we do have a different amount of invoices, different types of investments in this among this panel, what do you think? How can we build a financial pipeline for investments so that our region would receive a whole lot of new green unicorns? How to move from those unicorns to a larger dynamics? How can we create more and more champions and launch them? on the orbit. This is something that is happening right now. This is what you are doing right now, thanks to your efforts, thanks to this project and other projects. We are creating an ecosystem. More and more companies are being developed and established. This creates a pipeline. That's a natural process. We cannot avoid it. But maybe everyone is aware that clean tech as a boom, it was like 15 years ago. It was climate tech 1.0. And in the beginning of 2000, that was a negative result, because that's a long cycle. That's a work with specific products and technologies, and takes longer than the other products or developments. And there were no environment like that. There were no like overall push to climate changes. There were no demands from the companies. Now the situation is totally different. Now all the large players, the energy companies, they are forced to invest into the new solutions and renewables. And all of that requires additional decisions, IT solutions. And just recently, clean tech was publishing top 100 best startups, and 70 or 60% of them were IT solutions in renewables, in agriculture, in materials. So that's a lot of data processing. These are platforms, sensors, monitoring, all of those solutions, accompanying solutions. They're more sophisticated. That's the development of new material, new types of storage, new hydrogen technologies, and something related to that. But still, there are some fast solutions. Not all of them are long. That are somehow related to IT applicable solutions. So we would just need some time. In Ukraine, there are angels, there are funds that are supporting those projects, but still, there is no significant amount of companies that would be enough to create regional funds. But still, you need to look at different opportunities where you can get funding from. You need to look at some opportunities abroad. But this will arrive, this will come. You reminded me a quote by a leader. There was a very interesting project once. Unfortunately, it closed, but every first wave usually results in a wave of bankruptcies. And back in 2003, while I was working in ventures, I was in the Silicon Valley in the time when 40% of the offices were vacant. That was not in the COVID-19 time. I was in 2000s. The founder of the accelerator, remembering that time, from the boom till the large decrease in investments, he said, clean tech, він так само вмер, настільки ж мертвий, наскільки інтернет в 2000-х роках. So everyone thought that in 2000s this industry will drop, but instead it rised. It has become the next big thing, and climate innovations is a large generator of wealth on our planet. So now I'd like to offer the chance to the audience to ask the questions. We have some of the innovators, those supporting innovators, those searching or investing into innovators. So if you want to have a question or to ask a question, please raise your hand. We'll offer you the microphone. You tell us, please, the question and whom this question addresses to. I have what to say, just a couple of words. Before coming here, I thought about this topic. The major challenge in this whole procedure it's that it's difficult to find a balance between the impact and the revenue. And I guess that's the largest wisdom that we need to take. And I think in Ukraine, it's a bit more difficult or complicated for us because the largest challenge about clean tech is greenwashing. These are the projects that look green, but in fact, they don't have a best ever motives. So to say, what is most important is to prioritize correctly. It's very important for the founders to understand that it's all about the impact, that it's all about the supportive environment, and then it's about the money. And they should clearly understand how they will scale up this business, how it will earn, how it will build a scalable structure. So this balance is the wisdom of that. Whenever we start the accelerated program as part of the climate launchpad, we always have a saying that the biggest killer of all startups is the lack of paying customers. And I'm saying that very convincingly. Okay, do we have any questions from the audience, please? Hello, Mikola. This is Keba. I'm the head of the assembly point, and I have a question. In order to create new technologies, there is a need of a source in the form of solutions, researches, new materials, batteries, etc. And since we do have representatives of investors in here, how do you see the situation in Ukraine? I mean, the situation with regards to connections between the academia, between the laboratories, both private and public, and the manufacturers. Is that being developed as the ecosystem? There is a classical MIT formula when everything is on the same table, when academia, the corporations, and investors are on the same table. And what prevents us from developing this pipeline of solutions and connections in between of those people who are ready to come up with those solutions and those people who can turn those ideas, those solutions into something that could be manufactured? That's a good question. That's a difficult one. Let me try to answer that. I believe that we should look at Ukraine right now as the ecosystem. It's already the second wave, and when the first wave was happening, I thought that it's a risky endeavor to deal with climate investments in Ukraine. So we pay great respect to that. There is a green incubator. There are venture funds that are looking in this direction already, and they are prioritizing similar projects right now. But I think you should not look at the ecosystem, but at your own understanding of the ecosystem. If you have a technologist, if you have understanding how to disrupt the market, how to turn this market, simply by understanding that how this technology works, then I think you will have a success. I would add a few words. I had an experience of talking to academia, the developers, and in most cases, those people having a talent of a scientist, they don't have a talent of an entrepreneur. So in some cases, the people are simply lacking the understanding of creating a team. So my wish is to search for the partners. And those partners would be more of an entrepreneurs, helping to turn those ideas into startups. Because it's not only about the science, it's already about how to develop a business on that. And this is something that takes time. This is a process. And speaking on the clean tech, there is a great push from all the sides. There is a global pressure, but still, one of the challenge mentioned is that Ukrainian market is a small one, and from what I can see in Ukraine, I might disagree a bit with the phrase that it's most important that the person to do something for the climate, and then it's all about the money, but only in one case, because in some cases there are entrepreneurs that are looking or seeing opportunities like solar panels, and they're making business out of that. That's not an innovation. It's not about startups. That's more about the green business. But in these cases, it works because the entrepreneurs, they are looking at some of the capabilities, what he can use, where he can get success. And they're searching for different ways to succeed in our country. But speaking about the innovations, then I absolutely agree. The problem I'd like to raise is that this local market, it's a small one, and the programs like yours that will be developing further, they might help searching clients outside of Ukraine or understanding where to launch the pilots. And when you are developing some sort of a technology, and when you understand who could be interested in that technology, that helps a lot. And that helps the investors a lot. When investors understand that if there are people or if there are someone willing to invest after them, then it's only develop the ecosystem. I wanted to say the same about matching the entrepreneurs and the academia. It's important to strike a balance in terms of this practical component and theoretical component. And going back to your question about e-matching, it's either it doesn't exist or I cannot see that. I think that this project of matching university laboratories with entrepreneurs, that's an expensive story. That should be a state-funded project, I think. And I think it's impossible, not in the nearest future at least. There are many other concerns and challenges that I can see that would not be helping with the promotion of your issue that you raised. But nobody should be expecting for the state to come up and provide. It's all in your hands. If this is a painful question for you, now you already have a panel discussion. You already have a variety of people you could talk to. You can look at different programs that help those ideas. You can find these entrepreneurs by yourself. If you're a representative of one of these sites, then you could start raising support to one another. One small compliment. Please don't look at Ukraine only. I mean, that could be a perfect patriotic movement. That's right. But if you want to create something global, then one of the things that our scientists lack is the English language. They need to be matched with entrepreneurs from other countries. And then we could build some successful international stories. We are out of time already. Roman, please be quick. We had an experience of working with the academia, with the scientists. We were playing ecosystem. But in the very end, you have to employ them. You have to pay them salary. You have to create them all the environment. And they will be happy. They will generate perfect investments. But in the way as it is, if you hope that in the universities will come up with something only through their enthusiasm, well, that enthusiasm led to an end very fast. So that should be the transfer, not or the matching, not between of the laboratories of the universities, but matching experts with the entrepreneurs. That would be something that is possible. That could be something that could happen faster. I want to confirm that we've managed to match that, and there were 3 projects supported by the voucher program. They came up with the biomass boiler and 3D printer. That was also the former scientist. So that we have three specific cases who already received the support from the innovative program. Look, since we do have a lack of time, we have to finalize the discussion of this question. It's all about the motivation to create a project that would lead the pathway from the scientific development to the entrepreneurs, based on the book of the MIT professor, Disciplined Entrepreneurship. And this is something that Green Incubator Academy is based on. And it's all about avoiding the situation that Alexander described brutally. That's startup history. Out of hundreds of talented engineers, has turned them into hundreds of this wasteful entrepreneurs. And I've seen Oleg has a question, and we have to finalize this part, because we're running out of timing and the champagne is getting warmer. I have a question to you, Roman. Whether in the frames of this round or in other rounds, can you fund the data projects or those projects developing software? Because now there is a tidal wave of software. There's many satellites that are going to be launched this year. They will be collecting a lot of environmental data about the condition of atmosphere, the condition of soil, the condition of water. Everything that is measurable will be measured remotely. So the question is all about this climate crisis and about the reforms that we're having this new system of monitoring the pollutions at the enterprises. We can see that there is a need in the analytics of those data gathered. So is there a chance to fund those projects like that? I got, I heard 4 questions, but let me answer one of them. The data is new oil. That's something I like, really. Should we have an adequate data sets and models of their processing, you can do a lot. That's one thing. So we are super positive about that. We have proper ties with people who are doing the satellite analytics, but still, we are a competition. We cannot give any promises. My colleague will tell you the mechanics, the process, but it's all about the question how those projects can persuade our experts. Now we don't have any more time for the questions, but I got a question to the audience. Have you received some insights from our panelists, something that you haven't heard or haven't learned earlier? So, why don't you give them a round of applause? Thank you. That was a large concentration of the investment expertise, and I think we should make those sort of meetings in a more regular manner. We should gather the investors with different focus, with different receipts and priorities and sustainability and climate. So thank you for what you're doing, and we are hoping to produce you with the new wave of investees and those teams you'll be investing in. And now we can praise ourselves, and I'd like to invite 3 teams, the graduates of the Climate Innovation Vouchers. So please join me on this stage and tell us about what you've done. I'd like to welcome colleagues from Integro SD. So Anton, please join us. I'd like to invite our colleagues from Skempire. And Sergey, when you entered this room, you were seeing on the big picture, and I was telling, oh, we have 2 Sergey Kovalenkos, and we have a 3rd team. I'm sorry for this small pause. Who's going to be next? And we have Victoria, operational director from the Good Plastic Company. So, Good Plastic, innovators in the interior solutions, Integro SD, in refurbishing plastic, in new packaging, Integro SD, the innovators in agricultural solutions and fertilizers for the organic products, and Hempar, the innovators in eco construction. So, some time passed. You had smallest amount of time, you had more time, you had average. So, do boast about yourself. One of the internet resources offered was a series of articles under the title of Boast About Yourselves. So what are you doing with those vouchers? And we'll be praising your successes because you're our champion. So please, should you start? But use the microphone. Do use the microphone. So good evening, everyone. We're very happy that you've invited us. We have received a grant in September. And we've already signed agreements. We are launching our projects. So we are producing panels out of refurbished plastic, 100% refurbishment, and this plastic is used in the interior. You can produce furniture, you can produce some floor panels, everything around us. It could be 100% environmentally friendly. As of September, we had a cooperation with with a company from Netherlands, and we were starting the production in Ukraine. Currently, we are recycling more than 2 tons of plastic per day. We are buying a lot currently. We've moved to Bela Tsarkva, that is the city close to Kiev. We've launched our production in there. The development is enormous. There was a lot of new customers. We've supplied around 300 or 400 square meters of panels for a new concept of Nike. And now we are rolling out of this project, and there will be new shops of Nike made of recycled plastic. And we are some of the manufacturers that were supplying those panels to Nike. And thanks to the climate vouchers, we've managed to have a cooperation with Lagerfeld, with Nike. These are our major clients that we work with. And in order to implement their projects, they would need a certificate. They require tests. They require fire safety and fireproof certificates. They require confirmation that we are environmentally friendly, and climate vouchers allowed us to cope with that. In half a year, we would receive a certification of our manufacturing process, and we will have an internationally accepted certification saying that our manufacturing is environmentally friendly. Also, will cover all the issue with the mechanical tests of our products, which a very important part for designers, for those working with our materials while producing furniture. We'll do some fireproof tests, UIV tests, many other tests. Now, all of that is environmentally friendly, but all that has to be certified. So we are building a bridge between recycling and the brands, and these are the components that allow us to move forward with the bigger projects. Right now, we are only in the beginning. We're only preparing ourselves for some larger achievements. So I'd like to recommend you to visit the manufacturing facilities of the Good Plastic Company. So look at this company. They have a very powerful equipment for recycling this plastic, and now they're delivering their products around the world, and they turn the bad plastic into a good plastic, so to say. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you to this team. And this investment agreement is already signed, I believe, with the new Ukrainian investors. Nope. Look, I wouldn't like to comment on this issue. Okay, understood. There are NDAs in process, but we're looking forward to receive some news in that. So thank you. Thank you. Sergey, Anton, who's going to start? You have a presentation, though. Look, I don't have any presentation. Should I have prepared one? No. Do praise yourself. Do boast about your achievements. Well, that was a good story. I'll get the contact information because I keep collecting plastic bottles and plastic caps from the bottles. So we're just keep collecting those caps from the bottles. We can provide it to you. We're not gathering the plastic. We are only recycling the plastic. It's great because I tend to have a lot of questions where to take that plastic to, and it's good that my daughter and her friends would know how to deal with the plastic. My name is Anton. I'm dealing with the waste recycling, and I already have a project on recycling of animal waste. I'm producing fertilizers out of different wastes, and in unison to all those speakers, they mentioned a very important aspect. Whenever you're starting anything, you would need a team, and you would also need to have an engineer, a genius, and you need to establish his cooperation with the other members of the team. This is crucially important. But we've managed to succeed, really. When we've started our case, that was 2012. We had an engineer with an idea and nothing else. And we had an understanding how to turn that idea closer to the market, closer to the customers. So the largest conflicts at the beginning we had was the person who had an idea. We solved that in a complex manner, but it was solved. And at a certain stage, it happened so we've lost this person who came up with this idea. But we've managed to overcome everything. We had a team of 2, then 3 without the specialized education. And we told to one another, look, we can do that. And we've done it, really. And after 6 years, we haven't made any significant mistakes. So team is very important. A team of those union minders, those who support one another. They're not working for you, they're working with you. That's the major important thing. So all those sitting in this audience, all those willing to start something, you need to ask, or you need from those sitting close to you, are you with me or you are simply working for me? What we have done over those years? It's a question to the team. When we started, we didn't have a fully fledged team, and we don't have that team. And now we keep searching for people, and the team of Green Incubators came at the right moment with their support, because they've opened our eyes to some of the aspects of our business that we're developing, and we haven't seen those aspects in the very beginning. and the team is not some sort of a closed circle. It could be also a circle with any foreign partners. And I believe we are business friends, and they've did a lot for us. They've supported us. They've showed, they've provided us with many things. And Ukrainians did a lot for us. I wasn't watching at our business in the way they told me. And they addressed me with the questions that I've never asked to myself. I was looking at the business, at the technological process as something that I would need simply to cope with in order to prove myself that I can do that. So thank you to those people that they inspire us. Don't look at the team as a closed circle. The people around you, they can be very beneficial. They can help a lot. And I don't have any secrets, but I think I should come up with at least some sort of secrets. Since Anton mentioned Ukraine, when we've had this story of Hempar, that story had over 100,000 views on YouTube. But I think you have a lot of aspects that you can share with us. So Sergei Kovalenko and the team from Hempar, really, we won the first wave. We've received the very first vouchers. It was a lot of pain, really, because the founders of the company, they're not always the best managers, so to say, or the best administrators. We had a very interesting idea. There were a lot of startups. There were a lot of videos about person. We had very simple idea. We are dealing with the construction materials, 100% environmentally friendly. We are using a type of technological cannabis we're recycling that and we're producing that, turning that into the environmentally friendly construction materials. And I kept telling that I have 2 stages of my life before I learned about cannabis and after that. And I can tell a lot of stories about that plant. I'm invited in Canada, in Japan, in the United States, and there will be a large forum, an international forum on the technological cannabis in Denver, and I'm flying to participate in this forum. That's the largest platform with those people producing a lot of that plant. And everything you can see around us can be produced out of cannabis. That's a unique plant. We are using the wastes out of that plant in the construction industry. We've produced 100% environmentally friendly construction material. And thanks to Roman and his team, we've managed to receive this grant. We used it. We've invested those money for the certification of our products, for the testing, for fire-proof testing, and that appeared to be a very expensive test. So now we have a trademark. Now we have an office in California. So we are developing, we are attracting new investments at an international level. We have developed a variety of materials that we would like to manufacture different parts of the world. We have a potential project in UK, in Mexico, and India. That's the first 3 projects. We would like to build the same factory in Ukraine. That's not cheap, but that's my dream, really. I've always dreamed about this, as I worked in many countries. I worked in Canada and Switzerland and in Australia, but every time I returned to Ukraine, I remember where I was born. when I was born. And when I learned about this technology, when I returned to Ukraine, we started developing that amidst the war in Donbass. So it was very difficult to succeed as there is a war, but still in the middle of this war, there is a guy with his cannabis that could be turned into construction materials. But in fact, pandemics helped us because the people start to think about their health now. So in addition to the cost of the materials, there is an operational cost they have to take into consideration. And the energy resources are becoming more and more expensive. And that makes additional profits for us because our product are more energy efficient. And when Elon Musk was asked what the startup is, and he said, it's like when you're chewing the glass and looking somewhere distant, it's like chewing the glass, really. But as my colleague rightly mentioned, if you have a team, if there is at least one person that believes in his idea and he will not stop at anything, then this project is destined to success. So for those of you thinking of participating in this project, do participate. It's never easy, really. People think that for the success they would need a whole suitcase of dollars. No. In some cases, there were a lot of situations when there were money for the companies, but the companies were doomed. So it's important to have a team. It's important to have an idea. And it's important to have this willingness, to have this desire to move forward. So you need to be ready with everything. Earlier, people were laughing at us, and there were calls sometimes like, "What's the price for the cannabis? Can you supply us?" And my only response was, "Well, we could supply you cannabis, but we sell in tones. How much tones would you like?" And saying that this conversation is being recorded, and whenever we are going to the construction site, whenever we are driving to that construction site, we are carrying a couple of tons of cannabis, and on the back we were taking a couple of tons of white powder. So the people were looking at us asking, "What are you constructing?" But the number of minerals on the planet is limited, but the amount of biomass is unlimited. We can produce a lot of that. And now the large companies are starting to use the cannabis. The Lego is starting to use that. The car industry is also using a lot of that. The textile, the paper industry is also using. So turn the white side, not the dark side. If you're interested in investing in our team, we can always come up with a very interesting cannabis project for you. And by the way, also cannabis is the one that takes the CO2 from the environment. Really, the mixture that we are producing, and it solidifies because of the CO2 that it takes from the environment. Really, it has a negative carbon footprint. That's one of the positive impacts. And in some cases, we might have buildings, constructions with not a single element that is not environmentally friendly. So hopefully we'll build a lot of houses out of cannabis in Ukraine. So we are grateful to Green Incubator and those wonderful projects. And that's something that is absolutely wonderful, really. At first, we thought that it's impossible, that you won't be able to find the investments in Ukrainian startups, that this is not something that's going to work in Ukraine. But no, this is developing, and we can see a lot of successful cases, and I'm happy to introduce one of those cases. And hopefully the green innovators would be able to build carbon-neutral airplanes for them. So thank you. Thank you for providing more information to us. we'll keep inviting green innovators. And then one more very important aspect before the networking. We talked about the team. So that's another important aspect, the climate innovation vouchers. That's the team effort by the EBRD EU, which is administered by the Green Incubator. But if you have an illusion that Green Incubator has only one person in this incubator, that's me, no, you're wrong. Because in fact, Green Incubator is a team of people, very ambitious people, really. And without the team of Green Incubator, there would be nothing. And Andriy Zinchenko and Katya came up with the project of climate innovative vouchers. And then Nadia Artemyeva spent 3 years on supporting the climate innovators. And then Katya Zalewska. Katya, greetings to you. And she's dealing with the streams right now. She was doing so much for our communications. And then we had the Green Incubator Academy by Lera Musenka. You wouldn't have heard about us if not for the Xana's posts. So it's all about the team. And there were a lot of bright examples, bright newcomers for the team. Please welcome project coordinator of Climate Innovation Vouchers, Ola Zubchik. So please, you can answer these questions, how it all works. So thank you, Roman. Thank you for introducing me. Thank you for this possibility. Greetings, everyone. Before starting, I would like to address the audience with the question. Do we have here people willing to apply for the vouchers in this wave? Okay, good, great. Then, do we have more people joining us via this stream via online? Well, I'm sure that there are some people joining us online and willing to apply for the vouchers. So today we've heard a lot about some wonderful cases from our beneficiaries, from our investors. We've learned about what sort of results could be achieved through our project. But let me tell you briefly how this program works. Let me explain that in simple words. So, let's get going. As Roman told us, the Climate Innovative Vouchers, that's the largest grant program in Ukraine and Belarus that supports green innovations. It's part of the EBRD FinTech component, supported by the EU as part of the EU for Climate initiative. In 2017, Ukraine was the first country to launch this program. Once again, we'd like to express words of gratitude to our donors, to EBRD and to the EU for the chance to implement this project in Ukraine. And this year, we've already invited Belarus, and our partners in consortium is then Civita, the independent consortium. We are grateful to them for promoting these green innovations in these difficult times in Belarus. So, in this stage of the project, we are coordinating a fund of 1.5 million, and every beneficiary can receive up to 50,000 euro on implementing or developing its climate innovations. We have 5 waves of competition, 3 in Ukraine, 2 in Belarus. 1 wave is already completed. We have new wonderful beneficiaries. Part of them are already working. and part are about to sign the agreement. These are our beneficiaries from Belarus. And just a few words about the numbers. From the launch of this program, 35 companies have already signed grant contracts, 26 received grants, and 9 companies from Ukraine and Belarus are about to complete their preliminary works. We've conducted over 700 consultations. 275 companies have applied for grants. 35 companies were already selected, and we've engaged 12 partner companies who help us, who support our green champions with discounts, with the services, with the bonuses for our champions. We're grateful to them for that. So the project is continuing, and today we're opening a new wave. We are extremely happy with that. We're looking for new green champions. We're supporting them. We're supporting further attraction of investments. We're trying to move forward with our green investments. Just a few more detailed data on what could be the actors of this program. Those willing to develop the technologies that has a negative impact on our environment. The program is about the companies with 100% private entity. So the legal entities applying for this program, they have to be registered at least 1 year before the application for the grant. That should be a stable business with the financial reports, stable financial reporting over the past year. Now, whom can we not support in the frames of the project? We cannot support public funds, civil organizations, individual entrepreneurs, and sole proprietors. They cannot participate in the program. The producers of alcoholic beverages or tobacco or casinos, they also cannot participate. Those companies that are restricted in terms of their operations for the US and for the EU, they cannot participate. And those companies that pose a risk of some sort, they cannot also participate in this project. Now, who are we looking for? Let me give you a few words from our dictionary. We keep talking about beneficiaries and service providers, but who's out there? Beneficiaries are companies, small and medium-sized companies in Ukraine that are producing or implementing climate technologies in Ukraine. But for them to apply for the grant, they have to fight for a service provider. They have to order some services from that service provider, and that services could be funded through the grant in the amount of up to 75% from the amount of the contract. The beneficiaries, this could be companies from different spheres. It could be agriculture, renewables. That could be construction. That could be circular technology, any other spheres as well that has an impact on reducing CO2 emissions. The service providers are the companies that implement those services, that bring them to life. There could be different spheres. The next slide will be telling about the services that could be funded by the service provider. So when the company has received a grant, the beneficiary receives 75% of the funding to cover the development of its innovative developments. Now, which services could be funded? This is not a full list of services, but primarily this is the production of property, intellectual property testing, certifying, testing equipment, IT development of IT equipment, certifying, marketing services, any other services that could be of benefit to you, that could help you with reduce the CO2 emissions and other pollutions in the air. So the applications are assessed by the international experts on climate change, on energy efficiency, and innovations over the following criteria. So first and foremost, the reduction of greenhouse gases, scalability, whether this technology could be used in other spheres, then market potential, how this technology or product could develop the market of green innovations, the level of innovations. Is that a new technology or is that an adaptation of an existing product? And the new criteria that came up from our experts, that the reality, meaning how real is that your technology or any of the idea that could that be implemented really? What would be the probability of successful implementation, I would say? Having received a grant, we have the following mechanism. The beneficiary concludes an agreement with the service provider on providing services. Then it signs a grant agreement directly with the EBRD, and this would allow to receive the funding in the amount of up to 75% of the agreement cost. Upon signing an agreement with the EBRD, the beneficiary makes the payment of 25% of the agreement cost and starts the works. We, as the project manager, we exercise control over different stages. We do the audit of the project and we report the EBRD. Then the EBRD is transferring payment to the beneficiary's account upon the inquiry of the project manager and based on the certificate on the completed works. That's the time frames for this current wave. Today we are starting the reception of application. We will be receiving applications until the 28th of February. So already this Thursday, we will have some interested companies coming to us for consultations. We're ready to answer all of your questions. Then, after receiving all of these applications, we'll have the stage of supplying additional information. Then our experts will be assessing the applications. After selecting top 10 companies, they will be additionally screened. There will be due diligence. There will be personal meetings with us and with donors. And then we'll select the best. Then in the beginning of June, we will be having a ceremony to welcome the winners, so to say, and then we'll register all these documents. It will take us around a month, but this path needs to be completed. Then within 6 months, the project is being implemented, and finally, there would be a payment of the grant funds. So this is all. We are happy with the success of our beneficiaries. We are happy to hear about their annual growth of 56%, or how they demonstrate their proficiency in international platforms, how they take investments from the international venture funds. We are happy with that, and we understand that there is a small contribution of ours. So thank you all. Thank you, Roman. Now we'll be answering your questions. I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions for us. Yeah, we have some. Look, that's an important part of our job. Over 100 people are watching us in the stream. So I think we need to take part of these questions right now, because I'm sure there will be a lot of questions. Look, maybe I'll take the first 5. Look, I haven't mentioned the most important aspect, how to apply for this project. And there's a lot of questions about this. You need to visit the climate-based website, and then you select apply for button. You need to fill a questionnaire up to 20 or 30 questions and then submit your application. So please, you're very welcome on this website, www.climate.biz. So there's a lot of time still, but the largest amount of application comes at the very last day. So that was our project manager or coordinator, Olga Zubchik. She has recently joined our team in the past year. So let's take the first 10 questions and we'll be answering them very fast. How the NGO can participate in this project? Well, in no ways. We're not able to cooperate with NGOs. Only private companies without public capital can participate. Can the company with large experience participate if they're creating a new branch office? In terms of participation, Ola told us about this. We have an online consultation meeting on Thursday. Is there a field for cooperation with the International Fund of Renovation? We'll be designing the cooperation. At what stages should be our development? Well, at a stage that the could persuade our experts to invest in that. Which services could be paid? Any services which have a positive impact on the reduction of pollutions. Look, the service providers, they also have to submit an application. They have to be registered. They have to be verified by us. So for this project to proceed, possibility of this project. What is the condition in Ukraine? That's a wonderful question. You've seen that. Can we engage venture opportunities? That's one of the reason we have a venture panel. And green energy, is that operating or not? It's operating and it could be supported during feasibility study. Can we use climate innovative vouchers for implementing different technologies in the production of potable water? When this program will be available for the sole proprietors. They could be sole service providers, but not the beneficiaries. Spheres for introducing vouchers. You've told us about this. We told the answer to that question as well, and then there will be a lot of questions. And I think we should... Oh, the final question. Is there a feedback from the winners of the previous waves of this project? And as you can see, there is a feedback, there is a successful feedback, and we're wishing success to you and the all champions. And the rest of the answers will be answered at our informative meeting. And we are organizing this meeting every Thursday, so subscribe to our pages, and we'll be posting more information. We'll be answering all your questions in there. So let's pass to the next part of our meeting, but I have a very important task. Would like to express words of gratitude to two other teams. Well, we can thank to everyone. We thanked the EBRD, the EU, we thanked to our team. Then there are another two teams that we would like to express words of gratitude to. That's a wonderful team that allows us to concentrate on our cause and not on the organization of events. That's the team from Event Envoy. You're wonderful. We are cooperating with you for many years already. And do you like this place? Good? Because in this very place, there's a good team, and this team worked wonderful. And really, we like our cooperation with Akpo Space. Thank you. And now for the innovations to occur, there is an important task that we need to come up with. And that is this networking task. And what could be better than networking with a bottle of champagne? So start new relations, ask questions to one another. and let's search for new opportunities together. At this point, we are willing to take these applications. So the application opportunity is currently open. Please join us at www.climatebiz. This is where we are waiting for climate innovators. Come and join us.